Okay, so today I randomly watched a clip of Dragon Ball GT and I thought I should just do like a little retrospective on it. So, my thoughts are basically that I actually think it was a little bit hated on unfairly. It was a good show, it wasn't great. It felt like a little bit, just sequelitis, like maybe they didn't even need to do it. So, I can understand the criticism there. But let me just give my background a little bit. So, I never saw Dragon Ball, the original series, obviously. I did see, obviously, Dragon Ball Z when I was younger, and I've probably seen it a whole, twice more between all the clips and rewatching episodes and things like that. But I've seen it at least one full time and then a lot of other parts, in other, I've seen it in Japanese, I've seen, certain parts of it many times, things like that. So I would say I'm at least a fan of the series, I appreciate it, but I don't think GT was assessed entirely fairly, right? I'm not saying it's great or as good as the original show, but it sort of does something weird because the pacing of GT is basically what Kai was supposed to be, but that didn't actually turn out. In other words, it does it at a very super fast pace. So even if you don't like the content in GT, you realize that in only about 60 episodes, it goes through so many different arcs. You have the Shadow Dragon arc, you have obviously Synth Shenron, Omega Shenron, you have all the others, right? Trying to find the Dragon Balls, etc. You have Super 17, which is kind of short-lived, but you have Dr. Mew, you have, who else? Like, the Rildo was kind of like a brief little villain at the beginning. And then you also have, obviously, Baby Vegeta, right? Or just Baby taking over everybody, including Vegeta. So that's a lot of content to cover in only 60 episodes. Any one of those arcs could have been 60 episodes in the original series with how much they drag out fights, etc. So at least from a pacing issue, whether you like the series or not, it's very quick, right? None of the fights really drag out except for maybe the last one with Omega, but since it's the last fight of the show, you can kind of understand it, but still that one drags out. But all the rest of them everything is resolved within like one episode. Like with each of the 7 Shadow Dragons, right? Each one of those fights could have gone on for multiple episodes, and that's how it would have been paced like in the original series. It would have been, each one would be 2 or 3 episodes, and then the final one would be like 20 episodes, or they'd kind of really drag it out. So I do appreciate the way it's paced. Some of what they do that's negative is with the characters, like, they're not entirely a good extension of them. Okay, so first of all, the premise is bad, right? Turning Goku into a kid is kind of stupid, and for that to be the baseline, I don't like. And also what they treat Vegeta like even more of a sideshow than what he normally is. Normally he's sort of a pseudo sideshow, but he'll get his moments, like he at least kills like minor villains like Pui Pui and Q and stuff like that, however you say their names. But he doesn't even get Dodoria, Zarbon, stuff like that. He doesn't even get too many good moments like that, and instead he's reduced totally to a sideshow where you either don't see him enough, like when they're out in space, or when you do see him, he's only like there for comic relief and stupid stuff, like how he shaves his mustache, and that becomes a little running joke or something. And then he gets taken over by Baby, which that part is actually fine. That feels like a natural extension of the Majin Vegeta saga in itself, like how he still has some evil in him. Maybe that's why it makes it easier for him to control like that. But I wish they would have written it like that, because instead, Baby just takes over everybody, like Goten and Gohan or whatever. So that ends up being kind of stupid, because it should make more sense. Like, because by that logic, then he cuts and beats up Goku when they're all fighting like early on. And so why couldn't he just take over Goku then? He easily could have, but there's some dialogue like, oh, I just don't want to. I'd rather kill you. So he could have easily just taken him over and won there, right? Because even if Goku's able to win the fight eventually through great difficulty, he is getting beat up pretty hard. He is cut. He is bleeding. He can find an entry point, and he can easily do that. So it's kind of interesting that, he, like the same way with Vegeta, he's not winning the fight, but just with a simple cut, he can just go in and enter your body. There's nothing that really qualifies why he can't do that or how Goku really prevents it. He just doesn't want to do it to him. It should have been something like, something in your nature has to be susceptible to that. Maybe Goten because he's younger and he's a brat or whatever. Maybe Vegeta because he has some evil in him still, stuff like that. So that's why Goku could be immune to it potentially, but... And then I also like the transformation. Super Saiyan 4 is pretty good. It's a good callback to, the original ape gorilla state, basically, where you're able to, transform into the giant ape that was even in Dragon Ball. And so now you kind of look like that a little bit, and it feels like this is the true final form where you harness it all the way, like in a more humanoid form, and you're combining the two. So that part I like. I also like the callback to the name itself, where it finally addresses, like, why is this even called Dragon Ball? Like, it's just because we're using them all the time for all these wishes, that's why it's called Dragon Ball, but that's just in the background and forgotten about. I love the fact that they actually address that directly, like, now there's going to be a bad karma for all the wishes and all the exploiting of the Dragon Balls that you've done for the whole show, sometimes for very petty reasons, right, and just your general overuse of them. Now you have to face some bad karma for it, and you realize, oh, now it's coming back to bite us, and there's a consequence to doing it. It's not just a plot device that whenever someone dies, you can just bring them back with that. There actually is a price to pay. So I love how they characterize it that way. And some of those dragon characters are very interesting, in particular, the whole dynamic with Nova and Ice, how Nova is so, sort of warm and competitive, but in a fair way. And obviously Ice is cold and sort of hardened and just doesn't care, and he's kind of a dick. So he kind of just, it's a good contrast between the two. So yeah, the transformation is good, obviously Super Saiyan 4. But see, that's even another way that they do a disservice to Vegeta, where it's bad in both counts. If you're going to have it happen organically, he should have been Super Saiyan 3 at the beginning, or become that at some course in the series in GT, and then it would make the final transformation to Super Saiyan 4 feel organic. But they do it wrong in both senses. Like, they just cheat it by saying, oh, let's just use the Bless Wave, and he just randomly leapfrogs Super Saiyan 3 and becomes 4. Right, like, at least with Goku, it feels like he's already been Super Saiyan 3, so he's on the precipice of that transformation anyway, right? Even without the help, he might have been able to achieve it, whatever, right? Because he's already so strong, and he's Super Saiyan 3 for a while. Vegeta doesn't even reach that form, and so then they just leapfrog and just let it go to him. So either he shouldn't become Super Saiyan 4 at all, and he should just help Goku in the same way that he does, like, in against Kid Buu, like, where he doesn't become Super Saiyan 3 to fight Kid Buu the way that Goku is. He just does the best he can, and they still win, through hard work. So either it should have been like that, or the transformation should have been more organic, where it's more to his own, that they let him become Super Saiyan 3 against, like, Super 17 or something, give him a moment there. So yeah, but I like the amount of ground it covers. I like some of the presentation. Again, some of the characters are done a little disservice to them, especially Vegeta, but generally speaking, it's not really that bad. And again, the greatest strength it has is the opposite of what, that's even where the name maybe comes from, Grand Tour, like, it's just a tour, because it's so quick. It sort of is the antithesis of the original series, or of Z, I mean, where that one just drags everything out so long, where even if you like it, it sort of overstays its welcome at times, whereas here, even if you dislike it, it goes so smoothly and so fast. So this really is the true Kai. For people who maybe were disappointed in what Kai did, it sort of botched some of the line deliveries. It just didn't feel entirely authentic to me, and it still goes on, maybe longer than it should. This is the pacing that Kai should have been, where it's just very fast-paced. It gets through the material quickly. Again, whether you like the material or not, it still has a great pace. So again, I like the transformation. I like the callback. I love the whole Shadow Dragon arc. In fact, just in terms of its rationalization for any of the arcs, that's kind of the best logic behind any of them, that the karma of the balls comes back to bite you, and just that premise was really, really good, and actually addresses the name of the series. It feels like such a storybook, excellent way to end it. So that I actually like. Again, I like the baby arc was good. Super 17 was okay, but that was really short. Dr. Mew and stuff, looking for the Dragon Balls was kind of good. And obviously the Shadow Dragons themselves. I feel like I'm probably forgetting an arc too, but generally most of the arcs are good. Like, if I was to rank them, the Shadow Dragon 1, Baby was 2, and 17 was 3. And maybe searching for the Dragon Balls, that sort of the other dragons besides just the final ones, if you want to separate the two. Like with Rildo and the kind of the early stuff, that's how they discover, I guess, Baby, is when they're looking for the balls out in space, something like that. And so that one could be kind of around the 17 arc as well. But yeah, it has some dumb lines like that too. I admire your ability to die, like when he's talking to Seven. Not saying that Z didn't have stupid lines like that too. Sad for you, like, androids bring out the dumbest lines and behavior in Vegeta. But yeah, all that, it does a disservice to Vegeta for sure. And it also, I don't know, just trivializes some of the material, but generally speaking, it's not bad. So we get like a middle grade from me. I don't think it was terrible, right? It does certain things well. Those are the two biggest things it does wrong, right? Turning Goku into Kid was sort of unnecessary. Why not just have him be Super Saiyan 3 and then present some of these strong because he ends up becoming Super Saiyan 4 anyway. So, like, why not just not even have the Super Saiyan 4 transformation, even though I like it? Just have him be Super Saiyan 3, but who he's going up against is still, justifies that. Like, the reason why they maybe do it is because, if he's Super Saiyan 3, that's too powerful, right? You need to kind of give Goku a handicap. But you really don't need to, because otherwise everything feels too easy for him, right? But you don't need to do it because as time goes on, right, he sort of is facing villains like Super 17 and Baby, who are apparently, require him to be Super Saiyan 4 anyway. So, but no, it turns into like just the Goku show, like the Goku tour. That's why it's called GT. The G stands for Goku. It's just because it's too much of him. He's being the hero all the time, which you could say that's true in Z anyway, but, they give Gohan the chance to shine. They give Vegeta definitely his strong moments, a lot of minor villains and characters that he takes out, so yeah, it is still good, but flawed in some ways. So I'd give it like a middle grade, like a C, right? Because what's good about it is very good pacing, transformation, some of the arcs, etc. What's bad about it is obviously the disservice to some of the characters. Again, turning Goku into a kid, premise-wise, that's bad. Turning Vegeta into even more of a sideshow than they sometimes treat him as normally. Some of the other characters are not really too interesting. So Pan, in particular, I haven't even mentioned Pan. Some people find annoying. I find it annoying how much of an emphasis they place on her. I don't mind simply her character, period, but they make her sort of the main character and it's told through her eyes and perspective. And the ending's a little weird how they, sort of show Goku and Vegeta, little grandchildren or something fighting. That feels a little contrived. And, even Vegeta's final line is something stupid like, take good care of this, Pan, like his piece of clothing that Goku has. So, again, the writing is sort of middling. They also trivialize some of the older stuff with, like Goku goes in the underworld or whatever and sees Frieza, and they do this a little bit too with like Pikkon or something in the older series, but they sort of trivialize like Frieza and Cell, and he just kind of beats them easily. Like he's sort of trapped in there and then he gets out. So some of that, again, you're sort of trampling on the old material, so that part I don't appreciate as much. But otherwise, it's a perfect example of something that's middling, where it does certain things very well and certain things poorly.